So this is a big question. How do you develop a team? So we're just going to look at a few key things that we might want to look at and slide a bit of theory there in looking at how we develop a team. First of all, we've got to look at how we're going to select the team members. Do they have any specialist skills and knowledge that you require in your team? You know, the obvious one is always to look at a sports team. Do you need a new goalkeeper? Do you need a new striker? Okay, what can they bring to that team? What skill set? Or are you trying to enter a new market in business, and do they know about that market, or they have a very, very specific product knowledge? Dyson, looking at going into the electric car market, so they've just hired, I think it was the head of Aston Martin. You know, because he knows about cars and they know about inventions in electricity, so they're hoping they can work together and move forward. So you might want to look at their skills and knowledge. Same again, do they have the experience, and do they have different experiences that can really help you out? You know, once again in sport they talk about some players have big game experience, so you might already have a midfielder, but this person knows how to go on and win a grand final. They know what it's like to be, you know, in the final with all those eyes looking at you and how to handle that pressure. So they might have experience. This one's an interesting one. Political power in the organisation. Sometimes it's useful on your team to have the right people. You know, when I first started teaching, I was always told the three people you get to know are the secretary, the caretaker, and the chef, because that way your classroom's always tidy, you always get the ear of the head teacher, and you always get a nice meal at lunchtime. So there are key people within an organisation who it's just useful to have on your team because they know the right people to go and speak to. So maybe that's what you want to look at. This links to this next one. Can they get hold of the right kit? Sometimes if you're trying to design a new product, you might need certain bits of kit in your organisation, and these team members can be able to get to these resources, or they have the right supply network so that you can get the new parts for your new thing. So when looking at selecting team members, you might look at what resources they can bring. You know, sometimes it's just in a team that they're the one with the car, so they make it onto the sports team, especially at high school and sixth form. And once again, an obvious one, are they competent? Can they actually do the job in hand? What are their abilities? Creating a team identity, it's an obvious one, but give your team a name. You know, even when we watch The Apprentice, that's the first thing they do in week 1. They give their team a name. By giving the team a name, it gives you something to all get behind. And then next, give them a badge and a uniform. You know, this is why so many companies have a logo, so that people know who it is they work for. They identify it, so that they've got a name and a logo and they can get behind it. There you go. Express the team's self-image. Do you have any slogans or mottos? So one of my favourite ones would be to say the SAS. So obviously the team has a name. They have a badge, don't they? That army emblem. They have a motto and a slogan. Who dares wins. So they know exactly what that team's about. And there you go, build a team mythology, especially with the SES. There's so many stories about when they stormed this or took over that. There was a great story on, I think it was during one of the earlier wars. They went and they stole Saddam Hussein's breakfast just to let him know they could get to him. So that's a little story about how good they were. So every morning Saddam would get his breakfast wheeled into him on a little trolley, you know, under those silver domes, and he lifted it up one day and there was no breakfast and a little note from the SAS saying, "We know where you are." Whether that's true or not, we don't know. But it helps them build the team, doesn't it? It helps them know what they're all about. It gives them that identity. Linking to identity, we might have loyalty. So we might want to look at expressing solidarity. You know, how can we get the team to work together? We talk about cohesion and making the team better than the sum of its parts, you know, so everyone pulling. So what's the acronym they use? Together everyone achieves more. That's the whole point about teams, isn't it? So that's solidarity. Encouraging interpersonal relationships. There's a great quote from Claudio Ranieri when Leicester City stormed the league. He said if you can get the team to work off the field, you can get the team to work on the field. So he was a great fan of taking them out for a pizza, you know, to try and get them all to bond outside of the training ground and the club. And then on the pitch, everything just clicked. You will find this, you're going to be working in teams a lot at university. How do you control conflict? You're all there for the same reason. So how do you make sure you're all moving forwards together? Especially, how do you control intergroup conflict? You know, how do you make sure it might only be 2 people in your group that's having a go at each other. So what can you do in a group of 4 or 5? So how do you make that loyal? And sometimes it's useful to have a bit of intergroup competition. You know, we do this in university. You are all competing for the higher grades. So hopefully by getting a bit of intergroup competition, we can get the best out of you. But it's about controlling this. So it's not about only offering one A grade, because I think that you'd all be upset if we only offered one A grade. It's about making sure that you all can compete against each other to get the best out of each other, and it's not conned off to anyone. We've got to get people to share beliefs there. So a good thing for teams is clearly setting objectives. It sounds obvious, but the number one reason why projects fail is because not everyone knows what they're trying to achieve. And so by clearly setting objectives, what is it our team is trying to do? What are we trying to do this week? We know what we're going to do. Involve team members in setting targets. So make sure everyone is involved in setting targets so you know where you're going and what you're trying to do. Give them the right resources to do it, whether that be information, time, training, etc. So when you're trying to create this shared belief and this loyalty, make sure everyone has the right resources. And remember, time is a resource and information is a resource. Okay, sometimes as well, you just got to learn. Some people will not do anything till the last minute. Some people like to do things early. How do you make sure those people, when we look at the earlier slide about conflict, how do we make sure those people don't annoy each other? You know, the work will be done, but the person that likes to do it early, they'll be upset it's not done early. When the person who likes to do it late, they'll be like, well, it'll be done by the deadline, don't worry. So how do we make sure that works? Regular clear feedback, let people know how they're doing in your team, let your team know how it's going. Every week we're going to have team meetings in this module, so let them know. It's about encouraging feedback as well within your team, so make sure within a team you give people the well done, the pat on the back. You know, I play a lot of rugby, and I will always congratulate and celebrate a good idea. It might not pay off because we're not the greatest rugby team, okay? But if somebody tried something new, I always encourage that because I don't want people not to try anything new, because we won't win games if we do the same old. And that links then to the positive reinforcement. So encourage them and congratulate them when they do something new, and really congratulate them when it pays off. That way they do it again. Okay, this is a way to get committed shared beliefs. The theory of this, actually, as you can see here, it's called the culture web, and it looks at things like the stories, as we talked about the story from the SAS, the Stealing Saddam's Breakfast. We look at the symbols there, you know, what images you have and what logos you might have, the power structures, who has the power in the team. Do we get the vice president's son on our team just because we know that's a good way to get all the cool stuff? Organizational structures, again, who's doing what and where. Make sure the right people are doing the right job in your team. Once again, it sounds obvious, but how many national teams have you seen them play a player out of position and it doesn't work? So make sure in your structure, in your team, you've got everyone doing the right thing. Control systems, once again, it's that positive encouragement, positive reinforcement. Nobody likes to be shouted at. Nobody. Doesn't matter what level of a team you're at, you don't like to be shouted at. So how are we going to control our staff members? And then things like rituals and routines, you know, are there fun things we can do as a team? As I said, Ranieri used to take his team, if they had got a clean sheet, he'd take them out for a pizza, you know. So, and he loved doing that, and that was all part of their rituals and routines then, and they loved that, and that creates the stories, and it has a nice knock-on effect on everything else. So this is called a culture web. Have a think about it. Have a think how it might help you develop your team.